WordPress. WordPress is kind of the shit. It's the class. So what we're going to do today is remember how I told you guys to do a homepage template and a main page template? Thank you, Anthony. You get an A. So, oops, I don't want to be opening section 2 because that's the wrong section. We're in section 1, right? You guys even know what section you're in? You're in section 1? Chris, what section are you in? What section are you registered for? Your section? Trang, what section are you registered for? See, I don't even care. Doesn't even. All right. So I haven't adjusted the front page yet here on our thingy, Mabobby. So here's what we got going on. So far, we should have created a website that we have a front page, right? So if you have not already I know you guys love when I say like half of the sentence and then stop. And you guys are like, oh my God, I want to ask a question, but don't get mad at me because he hasn't finished his question thing yet. At what speed? How's that go? How's my voice sound?
It actually just really sounds like you.
Interesting.
I listen to a lot of stuff at more than normal speed. So
Oh.
I also spent over a decade in phone work. So.
Ah, fair enough. So currently, we have a website where you can see here that on the front page, it is using front-page.php. So if I go to my dashboard, at this point in time, all of you should, under the reading settings, have set your front page to display a static. And if you have not created a home page yet, create a home page and set your front page to home and set your posts page to blog. So if I go to pages now, you will see that I've created a home page, right? And it is now set as the front page. I have a blog page that I've created previously. It is set to being the post page. So currently then the home page is using front-page.php to pull as the template for it. And right now, we haven't really edited this template yet to look like a home page. In other words, it just looks like a normal regular page with content and a sidebar. If we go into any of the other pages, we should be using page.php as the template page. If we go to the blog page, this again is where we have set this to be our posts feed page. So if you have not created any postings yet, so I really haven't been checking on postings, what I'd like you to do is create a few postings with a few categories. Okay, so meaning under posts right now, I have a couple of lorem ipsum postings that then are categorized. One is articles, one is news. Okay. So, because what we are going to do today then is we are going to, if I go back to my demo, original demo proto site here, we, are going to convert our front page into a page that looks more like a home page. Okay. And in this home page then, our typical loop that we are using, meaning if we have currently this loop, here in our template page, this loop right here is going to be considered loop 1. Okay. Which will give us this content when we get there, when we put that in. This right here, where it says latest postings, this is going to be considered loop 2. Okay. So what do I mean by that? Let's actually open up the lecture here. So if you have not created the front dash page file just yet, how many of you have already created the front dash page? Okay, and how many of you have set your front page to be the static home page? And then, okay, great. So you guys have already done that, okay? So again, if you have not created a home page just yet, I'm watching you two, right? Every time I ask you guys questions, and then I stop asking questions, and then I look here, and then I look back, you guys are like, psst, psst, psst. At least Dan isn't here. Chris and Trang. Okay, so if you have not created your homepage, then create your homepage. Set the front page to display static homepage. Okay. So your front page then, if we looked at it, may or may not look like this. So right now, in terms of the home page that I have going on, I have a bit too much content on my home page right now. So if I go to the home page, I don't necessarily need this much content, okay? And here's why. On a typical home page, I don't know if you've seen this other website that I've done. This one? How many of you have seen this one before? No, the premium one. Yeah. Oh, sarcasm. So on the content then that I typically put on the home page, right, is a search engine optimized kind of about us blurb, right, that then doubles as my meta description, okay? And we'll get to the meta description down the road. But for right now, on the home page, I don't want to have too much content because all I'm really looking for is to have that kind of about me blurb. So I'm gonna basically now get rid of quite a bit of the content and just have this one paragraph. So when I update that and I view page now, I have this paragraph of text, which might even be a little bit too much still. This paragraph of text then is going to be placed in the demo that we're doing here, okay? So this is going to be then loop 1. Were you waving, Dwayne? Oh, okay. Sorry. Thought you were waving at me. I just looked up and I see you going. No, that's fine. I thought, hey, Dwayne's saying hello to me. Hi, Dwayne. How are you? Well, that's fine. So this is then loop 1, right? This over here then is loop 2. We could have as many loops on a page as we want to, okay? So again, the WordPress loop, let's hear what you think the WordPress loop does in your own words. Who wants to answer that? Chris. Because you're my go-to person to harass. Yes-ish. In other words, okay. Yes. So, for those of you at home that can't hear what Dan is asking, or excuse me, Chris is asking, I caught myself, dude. Hey, Daddy doesn't like when you're this sarcastic with me, right? Dude, look. I was so jacked up on heroin this weekend, right? That I'm still, I mean, cut me some slack. Look at that, dude. Look at what I did to myself. I'm kidding. This is from the IV. Yeah. So this is when the IV was in me for 12 hours. What was the question? Oh, so if then I have these blog posts here, okay? Let's go to one, like my personal one, right? It stops at 10 on the index page. Correct. So that's where then, to do that, you can do that one of two ways, right? On the blog feed, like your just general blog feed, it's better to do it this way. Under reading settings, okay? So this will then say 10 posts. This is specific to index.php. So wherever index.php is loading, whether it is loading at the homepage of your website or it's loading for your blog feed, right? So for instance, if I go back to my demo here, where I have 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Index.php. And I go to settings, reading. Right now I have it set blog pages show at most 10 posts. So if I said 2, it's going to show me 2. Now, What does not come with out-of-the-box WordPress is, well, it does and it doesn't. You can do one of two things. On then my index page, I have previous post link, next post link. Okay. So, and then I'm passing the argument through there, newer, older. So this is then the text that is going to appear for this. So on my blog feed then, again, I have my business site set up like we're doing our demo. I then have those links in here that then links to older. It then goes to page 2 of the blog. Older, newer. So I can navigate back and forth through, right? So if I set, and this is still using index.php. So if I set index.php through the dashboard, through that setting that I just showed you, to set 5 per page, 6, 10, whatever, I can navigate back and forth like that, and it'll show me however many I set. Does that make sense? So that's on your blog feed, okay? Now, you can then as well to navigate back and forth through that, there is a plugin that gives me this, the pagination schema. Yeah, and I'm playing the how many WordPress websites can I log into? You guys keep track?
Yes.
You're just sitting there waiting for me to ask questions like that. Nice. That's what we're going to cover today. Yeah. So, where was I? The plugin for the pagination. WP Page Navi is the plugin that I use for that numerical page navigation on my blog feed, which I find to be very useful. Okay. So let's say then, Dan, I'm just going to start calling you Dan. I'm kidding. I'm going to call you Chris. Daddy's going to call you Chris still. So the other day in Web 202, Chris went at me. And I said, my 6-year-old does that. Daddy doesn't like when you do that. And him and Trang just got so creeped out that I was like, Daddy doesn't like that. So the rest of the class, I just kept on telling him, Daddy this, Daddy that. And they almost barfed and left. They were so creeped out. It was really that bad. Yeah, it was like, I could tell they were really, really uncomfortable. Yeah. I have to entertain myself, dude. So on my homepage then here, so this is where then, Chris, this right here is loop 1, the standard loop that pulls the content out of the text editor for the homepage. This is loop 2 that shows the title and permalink for a subpage of page 185, I think. This is loop 3 that shows title and permalink for subpages of page 186. This is loop 4 that shows the latest 4 postings. Okay, so this is what you're talking about right here. I'm on my home page. I want to show the latest news feed that then if I click on this, it goes to that posting, correct? Okay, so that's where if I looked at this in GitHub then, on my front-page.php, I have then the about us loop where I have, again, if have post, while the post, get the content, end while, end if. Then I have the services loop that what I have to do is stop the previous loop. So by using a function called rewind posts, I am going to stop the previous loop, because to then set up the directions for the next loop, I have to stop the previous one. That may or may not make sense to you. But if I don't give directions to a loop, it is just going to assume you mean the whatever page we're on. Let's go get the content for whatever page we're on. If you want to get the content, the excerpt, the title, the featured image, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If we're on our blog feed page, it's going to say by default on index.php, oh, you mean let's go get the whatever for all the postings. Then we can use the loop, again, if have post, while have post, the post, right? End while, end if, to get things like in this H3 tag, the permalink and the title. I can then use the query posts function to give directions to this loop. So for instance, I am saying query posts, post type, page, post per page, -1, I believe just means all, right? Post status, it's published. Post parent, 185. Order, ascending. Order by, menu order. I probably don't need this in there, but basically what I'm doing then is I'm giving directions to this loop to get the permalink and the title for all pages that are children of 185. Does that make sense? I don't either. I think so. Let's go look at the query posts arguments. Yeah, I'm not sure. So you may be right. This is where, you know, those things that you're just like, oh, that's the way the system works, and you just kind of don't question it. It's one of those things. So the query post function then is the function that then you can pass through arguments to get things like the latest 5, right? For category, for the latest year. This right here, what you're seeing is the old way of setting arguments, right, with the ampersand here. The new way of passing arguments, again, is through using an array. So what you can do is say category, right, posts per page, 2. So I'm assuming that returns all posts that belong to category 1 and are tagged apples. Oh, that's this one. This combination will return posts belonging to category 1 and 3 showing just 2 posts. So the -1, I just got that through, I don't know, seeing it applied somewhere, right? The other function that you can use is WP query. So query posts and WP query are very, very similar, if not identical. I started using the query posts function a long time ago, and it's never let me down, right? So Rick Astley and I keep using it. How many of you got that stuck in your head now? Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down. Doesn't hurt you. Yeah, I was in the hospital this weekend, so fuck you guys. Okay, we can set that up. So this is where then you can find the properties, I think, parameters. Yeah, whenever I've looked for the query posts, I've always had, there we go, category parameters. I've always had trouble finding just the list of parameters. I believe this is it, right? So I still use the query posts function instead of this newer one. As far as I know, they do exactly the same thing, right? So again, query posts has never let me down. So I keep on using it. No, I shouldn't do karaoke. So therefore, right, for my portfolio loop and my services loop, right, I have a pretty big query here of what I'm trying to get, right? So I'm trying to get the children of 185 to then present the title and permalink. Same thing with the portfolio. I'm getting children 186. For the blog, then, I'm strictly just using posts per page equals 4. So show the 4 latest postings out of the blog, right? So rewind posts, stop loop 1, query posts, set directions for this custom loop, go into the blog and get post per page 4, because if we don't set it to say post type page, it's going to just by default look for post type postings, okay? So post per page 4, if have post, while have post, the post, write out an article tag for each one, for each 4 of them. Write the ID, blog excerpt, give it a number. Give it a class, a blog excerpt. An anchor tag that gets the permalink. Permalink to the title. Echo, get post thumbnail for the ID. In an H3, permalink, title, okay? So basically what is happening here then, small, the time, in the category, remember how we did that the other day, okay? So basically what's happening then is on my home page for the blog, for the latest 4 postings, I am then getting the featured image, size thumbnail with a link, permalink, the title with a permalink, the time and the category for 4 of them. So if I were here then to say 8, we get the latest 8 for those, okay? So what we're going to do now is on our home page, I am going to do this. I'm going to push this way down for the time being, okay? So remember how I did home.html?
Yes.
In home.html then, in my middle, I don't have a text area like the normal sets of pages. Instead, I have a flex slider and a set for widgets. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy that out of my home.html template file. I'm going to go to front dash page. And I'm going to paste that in there. I'm going to hit save. Sure. All of the above. You can put it wherever you want as long as you know how to hook it up. Does that make sense? Yeah. So now if I have saved this and it's gone and published to the interwebs, and I refresh this, right now then, here's what I have. A broken flex slider. This section here for the About Me text, that is still dummy copy. This for the latest postings, which are just temporary dummy copy right now. And then my original content area. So what I'm going to do is this original loop right here. Is the loop that gets the text from home from the text editor and the admin. I want to put that there, except without that H2, because I have this right there. So in other words, in that widget section where I had that dummy About Me text, I have now replaced that dummy About Me text with the loop that gets the content from the home page. Okay? So I can then delete this, right? And so now my home page, and again, on front dash page, I don't want to get a sidebar either because there's no sidebar on my front page. So this is, again, the reason why we put the sidebar include into our template files instead of putting it in the footer. Get rid of that. So now, if I go back here and I refresh, this is where, again, this text is being pulled from this right here. So it's a little bit too much text. So here's what I'm going to do. Okay. So now that text shows up here. Why are my images not loading?
Or yes.
You have the correct answer, right? Log info. Oops. Templates. Template directory, right?
Yes.
Template directory.
Question though, can we use for like the CSS has its log info, blah blah blah, but then your style sheet URL. But could we also use template directory as well?
Yes. Yeah, and then so if you wanted to use template directory, you would then, instead of, so if I wanted to pull this style.css, I could say template directory style.css. Okay. So yeah, because these images live in my images folder. We'll hook up the flex slider later, but I want to put those there. So now I save. Okay. And now my flex slider works. Okay, so again, this is pulling from the text editor on the home page here, right? So the next thing is here for latest postings, then this right now is pulling dummy content. Okay, so instead of dummy content, then I still want to have who's doing that? Trang, are you printing? So I don't like when people print while I'm talking, but you know, Trang is a rule breaker. So what I want though is I want to have another loop here. Okay, so if I just put the regular loop in there, and let's say I put an H2, no, UL, actually put the UL outside here. UL UL list item title. Right now I haven't set this up correctly, but let's see what happens, right? In other words, I have loop 1. I have loop 2 that I have not stopped the previous loop nor given directions, but passed a function through to grab the title. See how badly it breaks. Okay. So basically, it's then saying, oh, great. Let's get the title for the home page and put it there, right? Which is incorrect because that's not the directions we want to do, right? So instead, that's where so customize our static homepage layout. This is where I went and grabbed everything from my home.html file to populate my front page. See our front page taking shape. Again, for the time being, I'm going to use an absolute path. Screw that, I use the template directory path. Great, my things are there. So this is where then on the home page under the About Me section, I want to use the standard loop to get the content, right? But again, this is where on loop 2, I need to rewind posts. So if we look at the rewind posts function, rewind the loop posts in order to reuse the same query in different locations on the page. Okay. As well, if you need to then create new directions, basically, I understand it, is you're stopping any previous loop. Okay. So therefore, I want to use here rewind posts, and let me get my notes out so I make sure I'm spelling stuff correctly and using the correct functions. Rewind posts. Yep, posts. And then, so previous loop. And then I need to give directions to next loop, meaning this loop. So this is where then I am going to use the query posts function. And if I'm only passing one argument through here, right, I can do it like this. Show posts equals 4. So now it should get the titles for the latest 4 postings. Yay. Okay. However, if I want to then pass more arguments through this loop, like category, this is where we should use the syntax going back to the array and using the associative array format. So if I then want to say, let's see if that's the right argument. That's it. Posts per page. We should use this argument right there. So let's say that I wanted to still show the latest 4 like that. Zynga. But let's say then I wanted to do this, where I am going to that. So let's say I wanted to grab latest news and latest articles. Right now, I have directions saying just go get the latest 4. Okay? So I should get 2 sets of 4 here. Okay? So this is where then I would want to say category name. For category underscore name. Actually, you can use category name, category slug, category name. So I'm going to put the category slug there, the lowercase, right? And let's say for the title here, then I also wanted to say I'm going to have to look up how to do this real quick. So in other words, what I'm wanting to do here is if we look at my business site and we go to, let's say, this service, case studies, case studies, case studies, tutorials, right? So this is where then what I did was in my functions, get featured case study. That was it right there. This one was a little funny where I had to get the category name, post ID, and then give it an array property there. Do I need to do that? Let's see. Let's just go back to and see if it'll work. Where on the single, the category. So let's just for shits and giggles say I'll just say so let's say the date and just say, I don't know, trying to make this look elegant. I'm not really making it look that elegant because I'm totally improvising right now. Why? Because I can't. See if that works. There we go. So this is where I could say April 17th, the title, posted in articles, right? So you can make it look more elegant if you want to. I am going to then take that and up here for the title, right? If I say the time, the title, the category, it is going to return, because all I'm really trying to do is show you some of the arguments you can pass through there, right? So if you want latest news, right? Whoops, I didn't give directions. So news, right? So now what I should have is a thing for latest news. It grabs the latest 4 out of the news category and posts them. But what I should also have is on the title here. permalink. Title. Why do I have the title twice? Permalink the title. Permalink the title. Okay, so same thing down here. I want to put an A tag, spell it correctly, href. The permalink close my opening A tag, and then after that have my closing A tag. So now I should have latest news, April 26, 2017. This posted in news. Again, I'm getting a list item because the category is, that category function will put it in a list item by default. Again, I'm just showing you what you can do. You can then style it how you want. So if I click on that, it's going to take me to that article. So if I then go to add a new posting, and put it in the text, visually like that, and then copy, make that P, E, L, news. I'll just choose news. So if I publish that, now if I go back to the home page, I should have 2 in the news feed and 1 in articles. So that's basically how you can then create multiple loops to dig into the database and get these things for whatever parameters you're trying to do. So that kind of answer the initial question you had, Chris, to start out with. How do you do that's how you do it. And that's where, like I said, what I typically do on, or what I've done on my business site is hold the featured image as well, right? So again, the title, the date, the category in tutorials. So let's go see how I did it there on my front-page.php. Yeah. Yeehaw, the time in the category, right? So maybe it's better if I, in this list item, did small there. I'm just trying to make it look prettier. category. So now you may be wondering, what's the deal with this? If you have multiple categories, it will separate the multiple categories with a comma. So, and save here. Yeah, it's still going to give me, but whatever. You guys are, there we go. May 10th in news. That looks better because it's in a small type. Do I have that twice? Let's see. Category, there it is, the category. This is not the correct way to do it, but I'm going to do it for the time being. I just want it to, I mean, what I should do is use CSS to do that, but I'm just going to put a BR tag in there for the time being. So there we go. You guys aren't even paying attention anymore.
Paying attention to this. I'm sorry. Yes.
That's basically how to do that. So that's how you're going to want to do that, Janine. Did that help at all in teaching you how to do that? Yeah? So here's what I want you guys to do then. You need to mock up your home page and grab the content from, well, let's go look at what the assignment says. I didn't write all these things up for nothing. So anyway, that's where I use the permalink, the title. This is a little older way to do that. But if we look at the assignment page, then create a home page with a short SEO paragraph, create a follow called front. You might on that. So get your home HTML file, replace that stuff, go to settings, reading, set your front page to display static. In your front page, use the standard loop to pull your short SEO paragraph, and then create loop number 2, a nested loop. Give it directions to pull your latest 4 postings or however you want to set it up, right? You should actually have postings. If you don't have postings put into your admin, into your system, it's not going to grab the 4 latest postings because they won't exist. So go put some postings in there with some categories. And, you know, futz around with, see if you can pull categories and, you know, do it however you want. So I'm just looking to exhibit that you've got the standard loop and a secondary loop. So here's what you shouldn't do. Don't get a piece of steak stuck in your esophagus, so you have to go to the emergency room and get it pulled out. It kind of sucked.